if someone's listening right now and today has loved ones in declining health, what's one thing they can actually do right now to maybe prepare for what's ahead?
I think one of the best things to do is to talk about goals of care, because those are going to be different for everybody. There
Mm,
might be people that want to pursue everything. They want to go into the hospital. They just want to live, whatever that looks like, right? But there's other people that might say, I want to just be at home. I want to spend time with my family. Do you want to pursue aggressive treatments? Are you a candidate for aggressive treatments like
mm,
surgery, chemotherapy, those types of things? So what are your goals of care? I think are the best questions when you start to have health challenges in your life. And then from that, you can kind of develop a plan. Like where am I aligned? You can talk to your provider about that. Like, hey, these are my goals of care. What would be the best route for me at this point in my journey?
Welcome back to another episode here on the Hart and Hustle. Most of us avoid thinking about end of life care until it's too late. But what if planning for it could actually make life richer, more meaningful? And today we're actually talking with someone who's changing the game in hospice care, Jamie Hunt, CEO of TopKare Hospice, from the ICU to leading a tech-forward hospice company. Her journey is nothing short of inspiring. Jamie, welcome to the show. And kind of let's start. What is
Thank
the
you.
biggest misconception people have about hospice care?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that people think that hospice is a place you go to die. So a lot of people think it's a place that you actually go to, a brick and mortar. And then the
Hmm.
other misconception is that it's for the last few days of life. So once you're on hospice care, that's it. You're going to die. But in reality, hospice is a robust program that's Medicare reimbursed. And if you meet the criteria that they have specific criteria for hospice care, then you qualify for this benefit that you've paid into your entire life. It includes, medical equipment, it includes medications, a whole slew of integrative staff that can help support you on your journey, so that your end of life experience, doesn't have to be traumatic, because I think that's what we're really avoiding is a traumatic death. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be sad, but we hope that you'll be more prepared and just have more peace with that end of life process.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, before you just told me now, that's exactly what I thought. Hospice is where people go to die. So you clarified it for those that are watching right now. And last time we spoke, before we get on this actual podcast, you told me about how you're actually using technology such as AI to actually do certain things. Not everything, obviously, is an AI, but can you kind of talk about how, and what you're using AI for within TopCare?
Sure. Yeah. I think I started Top Care 4 years ago. And even when, before this AI kind of exploded in the past year or
Hmm.
two, I really wanted to be tech enabled hospice, because my experience in healthcare has been that it takes a long time to adopt technologies, right? We get
Hmm.
stuck in our ways. It's big organizations that it takes a lot to just push forward with these new technologies. And so I really wanted to use technology, because my philosophy is always work smarter, not harder. So try and figure out how we can use these technologies to make our lives easier, to provide better care. And so right now we use AI a lot for documentation. And so in hospice, you have to have a lot of documentation. It's all about
Hmm.
documentation, and it's specific to the diagnosis code. And we're humans, we make mistakes, we forget things. And so if you put the note in there and you say, like, please make suggestions for this diagnosis code, like what are we missing, what are we not assessing, and then it kind of just spits it out for you, which before our DON, our director of nursing, would have to go in, read the note, look at the regs. And it's just like, that's saving so much time. I think another thing is just education.
Hmm.
Instead of, having to use your brain and come up with an education plan, you can just say, hey, you know what? We need more help with this, or a scenario like a service failure or something that happened, we can put that scenario in there and say like, okay, how can we use this as a teaching moment? I mean, I use it all the time. We all use it. I think our team is pretty, like we're easy to adopt it. We're not scared of it. I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to use AI, but I
Yeah.
think like if you don't use it, then you're going to fall behind. So
And kind of what you just said, there are a lot of healthcare organizations out there really kind of pushing back against it. This fear of it takes away the human touch. How do you actually respond to that concern?
I think that we luckily in our organization and in hospice care, you have to have the human touch. Like it's really about presence. It's really about being human and being with somebody. But the documentation and all the regs often get in the way of that, right? Because you're so busy. Oh, I got to document this. I got to make sure this is done. And you're spending so much time with that part, like the robotic part,
Hmm.
that, now you can have more time to be present because a lot of hospice care is just presence. It's just being there and letting the family and the patient know, like, hey, I'm here for you. Like, what do you need from
Hmm.
me? So,
Yeah, I love that because I do feel, I mean, we kind of go into the hospital sense of things. And when I speak to those doctors, they always mention how they have to focus so much on the paperwork aspect of it. And it kind of loses that person to person. So now we actually are, to me, we're getting it back because if we can get in this AI where it's taking notes for us and you don't have to be so deep into these books, you can actually give that attention back to, as you mentioned, the patient themselves. So I love that you're actually using them. Are you using it in the space as well? I know you talked about just the educational purpose, maybe like workshops that you guys create. You talked about client base as well. Is there any other ways that you guys are using AI that really helps the business?
um, reviews. We use them for reviews, for yearly reviews. That's helped as well. So,
Nice.
kind of getting a 10-page document, get
Hmm.
it done right away. And then again, you can focus on the human connection because then you can focus on like, hey, let's talk. We have time to do this, but you've got the regulation, you've got the paperwork complete and it's compliant.
Do you agree that we live in a culture that avoids talking about death?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Why are people? Why do you think people are
I'm
so
a nurse
resistant?
and I laugh in really bad situations. It's just something I
Why do you
can't.
think people are so resistant to it?
Um, it's interesting because I think, I think I talked to you about this on our discovery call, but we love to plan for our life, right? As
Mm-hmm.
humans, we love to plan for our wedding day, our kids, our that car we want to get. We want to plan for our retirement. We want to plan for the vacation. We want to plan for this home we're going to get someday. But death, which is going to happen to every single one of us, no matter what, and all those things might happen to us. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to plan for it. So it is interesting. And it's scary, I think. We don't talk about it. It's the elephant in the room. I think that's like the mission that I have with hospice is to just like spread awareness about death, keep talking about it. So then again, it doesn't have to be traumatic. It can be
Mm-hmm.
something that you've planned for, that you've talked to your family about. When I worked in the ICU, like it was very sad because people don't talk about it. And then you have this patient who's on life support who can't make their wishes known. And now the family has to make that decision. And that's really hard if you don't know and you
Mm-hmm.
haven't talked about it. So,
Yeah, I think we may have talked about it. My mom, when she maybe like the last 6 months, I remember her saying, "Hey, I want to see all you guys. I have some important stuff to share with you guys." And we're already like, "What the hell is she talking to us about?" Already scared. My mom's 60 some years old, so we're like, "Oh my God, there's just something going on." All these, it feels very scary.
it does.
And then, sure enough, she had the conversation, and for us, it was still like one of those. Like, is everything okay?
Yeah.
But she was doing exactly what you mentioned. She was prepping us for those moments that do come. She's understanding, and she wants us to know, hey, if there was decisions that are made, these are my decisions.
That's great.
This is who's going to make these decisions for me. God forbid I can't speak. God forbid, I just don't have the ability to do it. So we're all in the room like, okay, but it was one of those things that we grew up not having those conversations, right? She
Exactly.
lost both her mom and dad and really never really knowing what they wanted. She had to
Mhm.
make that decision for them. So I love that you're not just the CEO of Top Care, but you're also just making sure people understand the mission on why you're actually doing it and what's the benefit of it. If someone's listening right now and today has loved ones in declining health, what's one thing they can actually do right now to maybe prepare for what's ahead?
I think one of the best things to do is to talk about goals of care because those are going to be different for everybody. There
Mhm.
might be people that want to pursue everything. They want to go into the hospital. They just want to live, whatever that looks like, right? But there's other people that might say, I want to just be at home. I want to spend time with my family. Do you want to pursue aggressive treatments? Are you a candidate for aggressive treatments like
Mhm.
surgery, chemotherapy, those types of things? So, what are your goals of care? I think are the best questions when you start to have health challenges in your life. And then from that, you can kind of develop a plan. Like where am I aligned? You can talk to your provider about that. Like,
Mhm.
hey, these are my goals of care. What would be the best route for me at this point in my journey?
Appreciate you sharing that. And do you have a story from your time at Top Care that really captures the impact of hospice care can really have on a family?
Oh, there's a lot. There's so many. I think just generally, I think people after they come on, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that this was what hospice was. Like, I wish I would have known what this was. I wish I would have known about you guys sooner. Um, and I think that that's one of the main like stories that I keep hearing. Um, we do a lot of holistic and integrative care. So people really like that. We do at end of life, like in that kind of like more end
Mhm.
of life period, like 2 weeks. We do a lot of like sound therapy, aromatherapy, massage, Reiki, life review, legacy, and people really like that. So
No, that's actually really cool. I know that last time that we spoke, and I didn't give it in the intro. I mean, hopefully you enjoyed the intro because I wanted to make sure it was top tier for you. But we also spoke about how you started Make Was Meaningful. Is that correct? Is
make
that what
life meaningful.
Make Life Meaningful alongside Top Care? Why was it so important to you to create that nonprofit alongside a for profit?
I think there's a lot of financial burdens that happen at end of life that people are not prepared for. It can be like caregiver fees, it could be home modifications, it could be maybe an experience that you want, a medical equipment that's not covered by Medicare. And so, just to supplement the costs, I thought it would be important to have a nonprofit as well as bring awareness to hospice end of life without it saying hospice, right? So it's
Hmm.
kind of being a little tricky, but talking to people about, what makes life meaningful to you. And I think that that can be a question you ask yourself every day. It's mental health, it's intention. How are you living your life? Are you living your life in line with your values, in line with what makes you feel alive?
I'm gonna ask you a question, the same kind of question, but for the nonprofit space. Can you share that story with someone whose life was directly impacted by the nonprofit?
I actually just started it.
Okay,
So
okay.
I have not utilized any of the funds. So we just started it. I just made like the first bank deposit in February and just some money that people were asking us with Top Care, like, hey, can we donate money somewhere? Well, we're actually a for-profit hospice. So I didn't feel comfortable taking money from them. And
Yeah.
so now I put that money into the nonprofit and stories to come.
Hey, I can't wait. I would love to know though, have you seen some challenges? Have you seen some differences when it becomes like nonprofit and for profit? Are you seeing that it's just kind of the same? I mean, in reality, they're both businesses. They're
Mhm.
very ran similar. One has stakeholders, one has stockholders. One you're a salesperson, one you're looking for, grants and fundraising. What are some of the differences that you've actually been able to see?
Yeah, I think there's definitely differences between the two. I think what makes the most difference is the heart of the organization. So, what's your mission? Why are you doing this? is it just to make money? Is it just to get a paycheck? Or is there heart in it? And I think that can go for both nonprofit and profit, right? So I am a for profit, but I was a nurse. This is my dream. I want to make a difference. We have a mission. I have experience in this, but there's other people that might look at this business model and say, oh, I have an MBA, and not saying
Hmm.
that this would be bad, but this looks like a good business. Let's make some money here. And it's just a spreadsheet and it's just the numbers and it's just how can we make the most profit? And there's not that heart. There's not that, you're going to spend more money on some patients. You might spend less money on others. And like, you kind of have to take each patient individually and say like, what do they need? What is our mission? And like, how can we help this patient? Obviously we can't just throw money at everything because we are a business, but
Hmm.
we really look at the people, we look at our staff. It's not a numbers game for us. So
If the Hart and Hustle podcast has ever sparked any idea or made you think differently, do us a favor. Make sure to guys share this, post it on LinkedIn, or even text that nonprofit friend that you just have. Whatever works, this is what keeps the conversation going and allows us to just grow this community together. Seriously, we appreciate you. You mentioned Hart. How in the world are you balancing running a company, a nonprofit with a leading from the heart, and you're still having to do some deeply emotional work?
um, I think taking care of myself is very important. It took many years to figure that one out. and
Hey, as long as you figured it out, right?
making sure eating healthy, working out. I have like a spiritual practice. I journal. Just making sure that I take care of myself is really important. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned as a leader is that just because I'm not sitting at my desk and typing away doesn't mean I'm not working.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like guilt, like, oh, I need to be at my desk, I need to be typing, I need to be doing. But I think a lot of the ideas and a lot of the breakthroughs I have happen on walks or happen when I'm journaling. So I think that that's like kind of the mind shift as a leader, is that it's not just
Yeah,
whatever
at your
boots to the
at your
ground
desk.
tasking.
At your desk all day. No, for sure. Sometimes you definitely need to just step away, especially not only you're dealing with the emotional piece, but you're dealing with leadership stuff. And sometimes it could just be so stressful. So I love that you found ways that you detach from the day to day so that you can, as you mentioned, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I
And
love
great
that.
staff. Like I just have found the best staff and they really manage the day to day. And I'm not super involved with that anymore, which took a lot to let go of that as well. I was like, I just need to get in there.
I hear it all the time. When you go from a place where you were like in front of the scenes and now you're probably a little bit more behind the scenes, it's like, but wait, I want to go back to what I was doing.
Yeah.
But there's a reason that you're in this leadership seat because you know what? You did all the work and you'll still continue to, do that work, but at a bigger scale. So I hear you on that. And you talk about team. I love when leaders always say, my team is just so good. And I always agree. But it's like, well, who's that engine to that car that is running? And it's you. You, the leader that have found the team, that have been patient to find people that are really aligning within your value, within that mission per se. So kudos to just what you've been able to do. Like you mentioned, step away, no longer micromanaging. Maybe there was a little bit micromanaging. Oh, I'm not doing that anymore because
Yeah.
I trust people. Right now, I can delegate and I still have to maybe go double check, but I'm now at the delegating piece, right? Hey, can
Yeah.
you do that? And I find myself there sometimes as well. Oh, that's a grant that needs to be written on the nonprofit side, or oh, we got to do this. Let me do it. And I was like, okay. Matter of fact, actually, I can't do everything. Right? There's a
Exactly.
person for that. Let me go ahead and just tell them if they need help. I'll be there though.
Exactly.
Um, Leadership is not easy, and I know you can agree and attest to that. What is that one leadership lesson that you've actually learned since starting Top Care?
I think the biggest lesson I've learned is to pause and think before reacting. I think in the beginning, things were like so fast, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And I think I
Yeah.
was very reactive. And so you're like, react to something, you panic, you raise your cortisol levels, and then you realize, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done it that way, or it actually wasn't that big of a deal, and at the end of the day. So I think whenever something big happens, like a staffing issue or a service issue or anything like that, I kind of am just like, okay, good to
Yeah.
know, like, and then kind of like review it on my own and then come up with a plan. So, or with the team.
Yeah.
Hmm.
For sure. Realizing that we don't need to answer right away. We think about it, digest it a little bit. So that actually is a really good one. I don't think too many people would actually mention that one, but I think that was right on the head. Where do you see hospice care in the next 5 years? Like you're putting so much into it. You talked about the technology that you're implementing, which I think is huge. Not a lot of people are there in that space. But how do you see hospice care in the next 5 years, and how do you hope Top Care will continue to shape the future? I mean, you're already kind of ahead of the game.
Hmm. Well, there's a lot of regulations going on with Medicare. So that's kind of the unknown of, how is this model going to change? Is it going to be same? We're reimbursed by Medicare right now. There's a lot of the insurance companies doing like that Medicare Advantage, which people say might change the industry. So there's a lot of things that are outside of our control that might
Mhm.
change. But my thought process is always, again, don't panic. I mean, adjust to the changes. Things change. And if we can figure out opportunities within these bigger reimbursement models, I think we will be ahead of the game as well. And then as far as technology goes, I think the nursing documentation is just, I think it's going to be a game changer. There's new AIs now that you can just record your visit. Everything's recorded. It puts it into a note. I just like the documentation of hospice, because when I started, I was a nurse as well. I went out, I
Mhm.
saw patients, I documented, and it was the worst. It's just like so much documentation. So I think that will help with efficiency, with job satisfaction, compliance. So a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think of other things that might change. I just hope that people more awareness about end of life. I think people are trying, and I think Medicare will realize that hospice is a savings to them.
Mhm.
We get reimbursed a certain amount every day, which is a fraction of the cost of a ER admission, and we
Mhm.
keep people out of the hospital because we see
Mhm.
them weekly, we see them every other day, and so I think that if we could make this program more robust, like not just last 6 months of life, because right now that's what it's for, technically.
Yeah.
Again, nobody knows, nobody can predict you're only going to live 6 months, but basically they come up with this criteria and they say, based on this criteria, you might live 6 months or less. But I think if they expanded it to, years, it would be a much better program. But
No, I
that's
do love that. I do love that. Jamie, I don't know if we've covered this already. How you just mentioned it. You go from nurse to CEO. Where was the shift in your mind that said, you know what, I don't want to just be a nurse anymore. I want to make a bigger difference. How do I make a bigger difference? When did that spark in your mind to make that transition?
in Top Care or in general in life?
In Top Care, yeah.
Yeah, so in Top Care, when I started, I didn't really have a choice. You work in your business and then eventually you work out of it. And I think honestly, one of the main things that I didn't want to do was document.
Got
But
it.
no, but I also think like, in order to grow as a business, you have to get out of it. And so
Yeah.
there was a point like once I had enough money, once, we had enough patients, but, in the beginning, it's just, I started from scratch. So I kind of had to do what I had to do until the funds were there.
And how about just entrepreneurship in general? Like, did you have that background in entrepreneurship? Is this something that you just learned as you went?
Yeah, I grew up in a family business. So my grandpa started a campground in Wisconsin. And so then my dad took it over, and now all of our siblings run it. My sister is the day to day person there. So, yeah, grew up in a family business, just always knew I wanted to own a business. My grandpa was very like, you just got to own a
Yeah.
business, Jamie. So, yeah, I kind of had little things along the way that I've done, entrepreneurship wise. Like I had community kind of education group for new moms that I did. It was called Calm in the Chaos, a blog, and like
Okay.
I don't know, just little things along the way, like made chapsticks, and just figuring out what can I do. I just need to do my own thing.
Oh, so you've been on this entrepreneurship journey. This is nothing to you. This is just I love it. Grandpa still alive?
No, he actually passed away. How many years? 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, he was 93. Went on hospice.
Live.
I got to
Wow.
be there, so I took care of him. He was only on hospice for like a week, but
Wow.
yeah, he had a great life.
Sorry to hear that. Was he able to see you, I'm guessing, go into the entrepreneurship journey on your own?
Yes, he was. He was a
Uh,
huge mentor for me. I called him in the beginning. I called him every week, like, I don't know if I can do this.
how cool at least that he got to see that. Yeah, listen, running a business is not hard. I mean, sorry, it is hard. It's not easy, okay? Because if it was easy, more people would be doing it.
Yeah.
But I always say the strong will survive. And here you are, Emily, that you said, yeah, I got a for-profit. Yeah, let me do nonprofit. Like you're really challenging yourself out here, wanting to do more. And kudos to, your family and grandpa for really instilling that grit, that resilience, that when things get hard, that you just kind of push forward. That crying and the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, that's all a part of the journey.
Yeah.
I've said to myself as well and told my wife, like, am I really this good? Like, should I be doing this? Should I just go get a job? Like, we all have those moments. So I love that you were able to at least have it with someone close enough, like grandpa, that I'm pretty sure was giving you all types of good advice, helping you stop crying and wipe those tears and keep going at it. So I think
Definitely.
it's
Yeah.
amazing. For people listening, what's one thing they can do today to actually prepare themselves for themselves or even their loved ones for the future?
I think just talking about it casually, when your kids are younger, when it's not even a thing, you can just start talking about, like, my kids. I mean,
Mhm.
they're exposed to this stuff all the time. I'm always talking about, oh, one of my patients died, but it was their time. And so they've been exposed to this death. They've been exposed to this language. And I think that will help them along the way. So maybe if you can talk about it, even when you're young, when you're very healthy, because then when the time comes, it wouldn't be such a shock. I know there's these games that have come out. They're called, like, the Death Deck is one, and basically they're cards, and it's just like questions about end of life that you can ask each other. So there's that way,
Mm.
is like kind of more of an icebreaker. But I think just talking about it and being open and having that conversation versus it being just this serious one-time thing that you do when you're 80 years old with your children.
I have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, and my 4-year-old is always talking about death, and we're always like,
Interesting.
"What are you talking about?" We went to the beach, and she says, "What happens if Luca was to get just carried away by the water and he drowns?" And we're like, "Could we not talk about this?"
Yeah.
But it's those conversations that we really do have to talk about. We're on top of the 8th floor, and she says, "What happened if I was just to jump?" And I'm like, "Why are you even saying these
Oh my
things? What are you
goodness.
doing?"
Yeah.
But it's happening so early in movies. We see in these Disney movies where people they're seeing that, right? So it's like it starts so early, and we try to sweep it under the rug. But as you mentioned, it's all over the place.
Mhm.
My dog passed away a year ago, and she's still talking about this dog.
Sorry.
Oh, I miss Stella so much, and I know she's up in heaven, and she's doing like these conversations. I didn't realize start so young, and it's like as adults, as parents, we got to figure out how do we have these conversations.
Hmm.
Life insurance. I remember the first time we had to hear life insurance. I'm like, I'm 30 something years old.
I know.
But then you just have a friend 30 something years old just passed away, with a family, left three, four behind.
I
So
know.
we should be having these conversations a little bit more, as you mentioned, casual, because it's going to happen to all of us, when we least expect it, or maybe we do live to be 90 like grandpa, right?
Hmm.
So it is challenge. I'm still kind of almost in the middle between. I
Sure.
don't want to. I love life, and I was like, I can't even think about it. But every single day when I see someone that was my age or even younger, young kids, we see it all the time happen.
Hmm.
Whether it's cancer, it could be anything. Very, very. I have to look at that game. I have to find that game. I
Yeah,
think
I
this
can
would be
send
a
that to
good
you.
game. Yeah, yeah, for sure. What's one piece of advice or wisdom you leave our listeners when it comes to life, leadership, or even legacy?
I think it goes along the lines of this nonprofit that I started, Make Life Meaningful. I think that when we are entrepreneurs, when we're leaders, we're goal oriented. So we're always looking towards the next thing, right?
Hmm.
But I really would encourage people to um, make their life meaningful today. So wake up in the morning, like what's meaningful today? Like, why is life so great today
Hmm.
versus tomorrow it's going to be better, right? So and especially because I'm in this industry and I know that, life is precious. I think that if we focus all of our attention and our happiness on something in the future or a goal, it might not happen. And so how can you focus on today? Well, having goals obviously, but not base your happiness, your everything on that one day in the future. When I get the house, when I make the goal, when I lose the weight, whatever it is that you want to do in the
Hmm.
future, how can you still be happy today?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And for people that are actually wanting to support, make life meaningful, or get involved in hospice care, and be an advocate, like how can people get to you or to the organization, or just be at donor or volunteer?
Yeah, I think the best way right now, because the nonprofit is so young, I haven't even gotten a URL. No, I do have a URL. It's makelifemeaningful.org. Sorry, I did get that. Makelifemeaningful.org, but there's no landing page or anything yet. But the best place would be topkare.com. It's TOPKARE.com. We have a form you can fill out. We've got all of our events on there if you'd like to volunteer. We also offer a lot of community events because, again, we want to get the word out there in a way that's
Hmm.
not like, okay, this is hospice and like we're pushing like end of life on you. We want regular people to come into our office. We do acupuncture, we do sound healings. We have grief groups, we have them online and in person so that people can get like that taste of, oh, this is hospice. Okay, I see
Hmm.
now, instead of like, I don't want anything to do with this thing. So
Yeah.
that's kind of our way of getting out into the community. So if you go onto our website, we have a lot of events.
Well, I appreciate it. We're getting to that time now, Jamie. The fun time. I know we're talking about all this, through it all, but it was really good information for those that are listening. You really have to kind of start having these conversations. As we mentioned, it happens to anyone at any time. Deaf doesn't. They don't have, what's the correct word? There's no judgment when it comes to it, right? When it comes, it comes. But I want to kind of get into this blind question because the last leader always leaves a question for the leader that's coming after them. So I love ending this in a sense of, let's see, if you could put a message on a giant billboard for the whole world to see, what would it actually say? A message that you want people when they think about just, I mean, you're in the space of hospice, deaf. Like, what is
I would
there
probably
a
say, like, what makes your life meaningful today?
mm, making them think?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's my message today.
I love that. I love that. And then now is your turn. Now is your turn to ask the question to the next leader. What does that next question look like?
I know I had one and now I want to change it because I've been talking about this, what makes life meaningful so much. But that's what I would say. I mean, I would say to you, like, what's going on in your life today that you're grateful for? What's going on that maybe you want to remove from your life? Like, what's
Yeah.
something that you don't have to do? Because again, life is precious and it's not always going to be like rainbows and butterflies by no
Hmm.
means. But if there's something in your life that's just a thorn, how can you remove that? How can you look at life in a better light? Because money, houses, cars, material things, all that stuff, we think it might change our life, but it's not going to. So,
Doesn't. Yeah, you got to find happiness elsewhere. I mean, we've seen so many people that first person that comes to mind is Robin Williams. Very rich, very wealthy, very famous, but was still dealing with his own, demons because money's not everything. We got to find what's happy, what makes someone happy. And what I really love is when someone tells me they go from for profit to the nonprofit, and you're kind of in both spaces, but they'll tell you, man, I'm so happy that I get to change the lives, right? People are
yeah.
working for these Fortune 500 companies, go into the for profit, never understood that there was a mission that they actually aligned with, that they love. And now they're like, man, yeah, I took a huge pay cut, but I'm so happy that I'm making a difference and I'm changing people's lives, not just today, but for the future. And today we get to talk to Jamie, that's in the hospice space, also changing lives, making a difference for the future. So, Jamie, I just end this saying thank you so much
Thank
for really
you.
giving your time for us to us and allowing us to understand what is hospice about, because as you mentioned, everyone just thinks death, but it's so much more to it. And I'm just so happy that you took the time to educate us, and I'm hoping those that are actually watching right now that you start to have those conversations. It's so important because it's happening all around us every single day, every moment. So if you guys are watching, make sure that you guys do like, make sure that you guys do share, make sure that you guys continue to take care of yourselves as well. Miss Jamie, we thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
being here.
Thank you,
We'll
Efren.
take, of course, guys. We'll see you guys on the next one. Heart and Hustle
Awesome.
Podcast. Laters.
Take care.